600 years ago, there lived a man who was blessed with the ability to destroy all forms of magic. The man is named Wilfred Vermilya. With the power only he alone could wield, he was able to subjugate the demon lord. Time has changed since, and now is the golden age of magic. Against this magic-ruled era with the hero's ability magic destruction, this is the story of Hollow Vermilya, of how he fought back and became the strongest sword user. During an easy attribute test, Hollow falls on the ground, and his father asks him to get up. Hollow looks determined as he replies to his father. However, his father is thinking that if his son manages to overcome this, he will be able to learn magic with his brothers, so he does not want him failing at a place like this. Everyone expects that he will become a magic user that will not embarrass the Vermilya name. However, contrarily to his father's expectations, Hollow looks at Sarah Hiryu's brothers Alan and Quen with blurry sight and falls down again. His proud father finds his behavior unsightly and scolds him, but Sarah analyzes that these symptoms are of oversensitivity to magic. Hollow's father is surprised and asks for an explanation, so Sarah tells him that under normal circumstances, magic is sure to be found in a human's body. Magic is then used to draw energy from our surroundings, and it is then polished into what we call magic spells before releasing that energy. So the accuracy of spell casting is dependent on the amount of magic that the individual possesses. In Hollow's case, his body could not handle the magic that was inside him, and this resulted in his body rejecting it. But Hollow might also naturally have too much magic, or it could be something related. Hollow's father listens to the explanation and is shocked at the last part. He tells him that this power was at the expense of his mother's life. In the past, when Hollow's mother drew her last breath, Alan and Quen stayed by her side and cried while Hollow's father reported it to the servants, not looking really bothered. He asked about the child, and the butler informed him that the child is in good health, and even if the official appraisal ceremony has not been conducted yet, one can tell at a glance that this child has more magic that far surpasses his other two siblings. It is a frightening power, but this power belonged to his mother, Miss Yuna, and it seems like this power came at the cost of Yuna's life. The father looks somewhat bothered and picks up the child, saying with a pained expression that the compensation for Yuna's life is this child's magic. Hollow's father, Rigard, tells Hollow that even if he possesses that power, even if he is the third son and he planned on making him the next head of the family, he cannot even use magic and is no better than the domestic livestock. Sarah says that his way of speaking is too harsh, but Rigard tells her to keep quiet. She is just a private tutor. He goes on and says that the people who cannot even use magic have no place in House Vermilya, and takes out his wand to cast magic. He says that this mark will brand him as a useless person so that Hollow can feel his incompetence down to every inch of his body. Alan wants to stop his father, but Quen comes in his way and says that this is the punishment for taking their mother away and tells his father to do it. Hollow looks at everyone and his eyes are filled with tears. Rigard casts the magic, and Hollow can see the mark in his palm. Rigard turns away from him and says that the name Vermilya is the name that carries on the legacy of heroes, inheriting its spirit and will to this country and the people. Their dignity lies in demonstrating bravery. So how is he going to represent the people of this country without being able to use magic? He tells him that Hollow has to prove his worth with his own hands. So for the sake of protecting people, what is he going to make out of this body of his? Hollow looks at his palm with a mark on it, wondering about the questions his father just asked. After 5 years, Hollow is having swords practice with Sarah. He is now 10 years old. He is able to defeat Sarah in the practice, and she acknowledges it, making Hollow excited because this makes the 158 wins and 242 losses this year so far. Sarah says that it is a matter of time before he can surpass her, but Hollow wants another round. However, Sarah says that before she became a swordsman who led the imperial capital, she was a woman who was still blooming. She does not have the stamina of a 10-year-old boy. However, Sarah looks at him proudly. To think that he had come this far in swordsmanship, it is as if he knew he could not make any progress with magic and decided to seek out swordsmanship without letting his disability get to him. Hollow excuses himself because he is going to refill their water, so Sarah now focuses on Quen for his magic practice. Quen smirks as he casts a fireball towards the target, but Hollow is walking past the targets and gets caught up in the impact. Sarah runs towards him to confirm his situation, but is surprised to find that Hollow used his sword to block the incoming fireball, even though the speed of the fireball was very high, and it came from his blind spot as well. Furthermore, he did not dodge it. He cut through it using his sword. Sarah warns Quen that he is going to be hearing a sermon from her next time on his mischief and tells Hollow to go meet his brother because it has been a while since he came back. Hollow also runs away, but Sarah remains in her spot, looking at Hollow and thinking that the power to cut through the magic as if it was destroyed is just like the fairy tale of the legendary hero and wonders if she is thinking correctly. Alan is back and greets Quen and Rigard. Rigard asks him how his life at the academy is going, so Alan tells him that as the rumors said, Regray's Magical Academy has a high level of education and students there are all also top-notch. Rigard praises him for being the president of the class. As the three of them are engaged in a conversation, Hollow stands on the side, waiting to greet his brother. Finally, Alan comes towards him and Hollow greets him. Alan grabs his face, saying that he is skinny as usual and asks if he is still practicing his magic and advises him to not throw up on purpose while he still has that condition. His body is still growing, so he has to take care of himself. Hollow agrees to heed his advice. Alan asks if he is getting along with Rigard and Quen. Hollow tells him that their father still does not acknowledge his existence and Quen still hates him. He laughs as he says that it cannot be helped because he cannot use magic after all, and he is cause of their mother's death. Alan cuts him off and grabs him, telling him that he is not the one responsible for their mother's death, and even if he cannot use magic, he was born with the talent to be good at using sword, so he should take pride in that. Alan tells him to always remember that because he is his precious younger brother. Alan asks if he is going to have lunch together, but Hollow wants to grab some food and take it long to practice. He goes to the forest of Asbel to practice and tells Alan to better prepare himself because he is going to surpass him in no time. Alan smirks as he praises him for being brave. Located to the north of the residence, and inside the forest of Asbel lies the only place where Hollow go to have fun. One day as usual, he went there to explore and found a dungeon hidden in the corners of the forest of Asbel. It was seemingly sealed off using magic, but for someone who has oversensitivity to magic, Hollow found himself at the entrance of the dungeon. After roaming around the dungeon for a few weeks, he fought a monster for the first time. He could not count the amount of things he could learn from just practice. It was different from just normal training. It was actually because of this place. He was able to see himself improving at using the sword. Hollow decides to explore a new place one day and finds chains in front of a mysterious door. The door is protected by the magic, and Hollow remembers that he was able to cut through magic with his sword when Quen fired a fireball at him. This is also the magic he is dealing with. So, he manages to use his sword to cut the magical chains successfully. Hollow wonders what this power is when he cannot even use the magic itself. But there is no one to answer his questions right now, so he opens the gate and enters. Inside, he finds a sword embedded in stone at a higher platform. A long set of stairs led to the platform, so Hollow takes the path to get close to the sword. As he reaches near the sword, a voice rings in his mind, asking about the trespasser who destroyed the magical seal. Like any ordinary person, Hollow panics and asks the monster to show itself. The voice retaliates that he is one to break the eternal silence, but Hollow also tells the voice that the same goes for it as well. The voice pauses for a moment and tells Hollow to calm down and look in front of him. It appears that the voice belongs to the sword as it introduces itself as Kasumi, the magical sword. Hollow is shocked to find the sword talk because it is his first time seeing a magic sword. He asks the sword why it has been sealed here. The sword replies that it is a long story. Hollow asks if it is the magic sword that belonged to the great wizard, but the sword tells him that it is quite the opposite. It is the sword that has accomplished great deed with a swordsman, so it is the hero's sword. Hollow has some doubts about its credibility. Otherwise, why would such a famous sword be sealed off in such a dungeon? The sword tells him that the reason for sealing it is that the world is better off without it. After all, it did not want to spend 600 years alone either. It also wants to leave this place and go to adventures with someone, but it has seen many conflicts. So a world without swords is much better place, in its opinion. Hollow tells the sword that it may be right, but the world still has conflicts. But it is true that swords are not needed now. It is a place where everyone uses magic. The sword also understands that the hero does not need a sword now. However, Hollow tells him that he still needs a sword as he looks at the mark on his palm. He thinks that if he really can cut through magic, then it is a way in which he can put his body to use. Hollow asks Kasumi to become his sword. They can go on adventures and get stronger together. He starts pulling the sword, even without hearing the reply from Kasumi. Kasumi gets surprised by his actions and tells him that he cannot pull him because it is sealed. Kasumi also remembers that the entrance to this place was also supposed to be sealed, so how come he was able to enter? Hollow tells it that he cut the seal apart and also takes out the sword from the stone. Kasumi is shocked to find that such a person exists who is able to break the hero's seal. Hollow introduces himself and tells Kasumi his ambition, that he plans to become the world's strongest swordsman in this world that is full of magic. Unexpectedly, the sword transforms into a girl who introduces herself and greets the brave swordsman in front of her. Slumbering in the deepest part of the dungeon, the sword that was covered in black was actually a silver-haired maiden. Hollow is super shocked that a sword transformed into a human. Kasumi tells him that she is one of the 9 magical swords that exist in this world, but she is a tad bit more special from them. Hollow is even more shocked to find that there are more of the magic swords like her. Kasumi tells him that she is the only one that can take a human form, but she does not really know more about the rest of them, so it is as if Hollow obtained a super rare item. She further tells him that she is going to accompany Hollow from now on because he broke the magical seal. Now the question arises that how is he going to take her back home? Hollow hurriedly runs inside the castle with the sword wrapped in a cloth. Kasumi asks if he is a servant in the castle, but Hollow tells her that he is actually third son of the Vermilia Marquise. On his way, Hollow is stopped by his father, who asks about the sword. Hollow simply tells him that he found this sword in the armory while training. Rigard is completely uninterested in the sword and walks away. Quen also walks away after looking down on Hollow. Hollow takes Kasumi to his room, and she transforms into the human form. Hollow brings some food from the kitchen, worried that Kasumi would be hungry. However, Kasumi tells him not to treat her like a pet dog because she does not need to eat. She is a sword after all. Hollow is once again shocked, so Kasumi decides to eat since she is in human form. She takes a bite of the food and comments that she can taste it. Hollow laughs at her comment, making her smile as well. Kasumi has a strange feeling that she has talked like this with someone else before. Hollow sees her expression and asks what is wrong. She tells him that her memory is a bit hazy. Hollow tells her that she would be able to remember everything with time. She just woke up after all. He takes her to his favorite place in the castle and tells her that they can start by making new memories together. Kasumi stays beside Hollow as he lives his everyday life and realizes that everyone is cold towards him just because he cannot use magic. However, Kasumi has already decided to stay with him from now on. One day, Hollow wakes her up like usual, but Kasumi thinks that he has grown a lot lately. It must be because humans grow up quickly as compared to other species. Ever since Hollow met Kasumi, their practice every morning became a daily routine. She taught him the techniques of the previous users of this sword. There was a strange power coming from the sword, as if he became one with the sword. As he practiced these techniques, he was able to get memories and experience of Kasumi's victorious battles. Sarah finds Hollow practicing his sword and tells him that she is going to teach him the last magic now. He will be turning 15 soon, but they could not confirm his magic condition. However, he still kept on learning magic. Sarah not only taught him how to use sword, but also all kinds of magic that exist in this world, and ways to cut them with just his sword. Sarah gives her last lesson and asks him what he would like to do next. The family is sitting on the dining table. Alan has already finished his night training with the chivalric order and will be serving at the royal palace starting next autumn. Quen got all S's for his magic entrance exam. It is the first time that something like this happened in the academy. Alan finds Hollow lost in thoughts and talks to him. Hollow talks to Rigard that he has already finished all his lessons with Sarah, so this is about time he would have to go to the Royal Palace's academy for training, just like his brothers have. However, he wants to be an adventurer. His announcement breaks the calm because the Vermilia family is too prestigious to have their son as an adventurer, and Hollow cannot even use magic. Rigard is also against it because the Vermilia family has been able to hide a failure like Hollow all this time, and this information can damage the family reputation. Hollow decides to leave behind his family name, but Rigard is still against it because he deems Hollow to be incompetent. Hollow raises his voice for the first time, saying that nothing is going to change about him if he is just locked up in this mansion. Rigard tells him that Hollow would have a duel with Quen, and if he manages to win it, he can leave the family and can do as he pleases. Alan still seems to be against the idea, but Hollow agrees and walks away. He is too excited to be finally fight against magic. He returns to his room and finds Kasumi all happy that he can finally leave the house. However, Hollow has his doubts about winning. His trainings up till now has been with swords after all. However, Kasumi's encouragement brightens his mood. He thanks her and asks her to lend her strength. The next day, before the duel, Alan and Sarah try to convince Rigard to stop this fight. However, Rigard knows that Hollow is serious, so he wants to see where his sons stand currently with their power. Quen stands against Hollow, thinking that he despises Hollow from the day he was born. He can still remember the time when their mother was still alive and everyone was happy. Ever since her death, the mansion had been filled with a dark atmosphere, and within that atmosphere, Hollow lit everything up. Everything revolved around him because he had the greatest retention of magic power of all time. But it turned out that Hollow could not even use that magic of his at all. Quen calls him a defective animal and throws fireballs at him. Hollow, however, knows all of the science behind the magic attacks and knows that he can dodge it just fine if he can predict the movement of the wand. Hollow keeps running and dodging the attacks. His motive is to close the distance between them because sword is a short-ranged weapon and close combat is the last thing that magic users want. Hollow is just near Quen to launch an attack, but Quen uses Mud Wall to block him. It seems like Quen is a double-attributed magic user, but Hollow has not seen him using Earth-type magic much. Hollow provokes Quen by saying that he is not all that special for a prodigy. Quen gets angry and blindly fires sand bullets. Hollow charges towards the mud wall and breaks through it using his sword. Quen remembers the time when his father ordered servants that Hollow would not be made known to the world. It made Quen happy. And when the servants and Sarah treated him kindly, Quen looked down on him for being useless. He considered himself more superior and worthy than him. He was supposed to be better than Hollow, so why is Hollow standing on top of him? Alan and Straw arrives followed by a surprised Rigard. Hollow looks happy as he says that it was a lot of fun.
It is time for Hollow to leave the family.
He says his goodbyes to Alan, Sarah, and Rigard and heads off. Ever since the mark was engraved on his hand, he was determined to fight against this world. So, with a sword in his hand, he will carve his own path. On the third day after leaving the mansion, they started making their way towards the imperial capital. Hollow tells Kasumi to turn back to her sword form if she is tired from walking but she wants to walk with him. She asks to take his hood off because it could be hot with the hood on. Hollow agrees with her. The reason he had the hood on all this time was because they are still on the Vermilia grounds and everyone kept looking at the passing travelers. They are not that far from the mansion, but he wonders if travelers are a rare occasion around these lands. He did promise to abandon the Vermilia name, so he is trying to keep a low profile. As they move forward while talking, they come across a carriage that seems to be stuck in a drain. The two girls with the carriage are magic users, but they cannot do anything about it because they are fire and water-type magic users. Hollow offers to help them, and the girl assumes that he can use wind or earth-type magic. Hollow tells her that he cannot even use magic, but he is pretty confident in his strength. The girls laugh at him for his overconfidence, but Kasumi back him up. Hollow decides to just show them his strength rather than arguing and successfully lifts the carriage from the drainage. Everyone present is clearly shocked and thanks him for his help. When he tells them that they are headed towards the royal capital, Ridwell, he gets offered to ride along with them. During the introduction, he finds that the two girls traveling are adventurers. The girl with short hair is Karen and the girl with long hair is Sean, and both of them recently became Azure-level adventurers. Kasumi and Hollow do not know about the adventurer ranks, so the girls explain to them that there are a total of 8 classes, with white at the bottom and platinum at the top. There are not many adventurers above the rainbow class, and Azure is around the middle of the bunch. Sean is a water-type magic user, and it is the first time that Hollow is meeting one of her kind. Sean tells him that even though she is a water-type magic user, her magic can be quite strong at times and she cannot properly control it, and that is why she could not do anything about the carriage earlier. Karen explains that the both of them specialize in attack magic, so Hollow was a big help back there. Hollow gets excited and starts talking about the nerdy magic stuff. Karen is surprised that he likes magic so much, even though he cannot use it. Sean tells her to be mindful of her words, but Hollow does not mind. He even tells them that his body cannot handle magic since the day he was born, so he is going to become an adventurer in order to get better at swordsmanship. Karen asks if he has ever cut someone, because if he is going to become an adventurer, it is inevitable that he is going to be facing not only monsters, but also other people as well along the way. She is not trying to be disrespectful, but it is important to have a strong resolve to become an adventurer. She is in the middle of her sermon when the carriage crashes into something, making them shake on their seats. The one driving the carriage is Karen's father, and he warns them about the bandits so Karen and Shion, being the only adventurers present, go out to take care of them. Shion tells Hollow and Kasumi to hide before she leaves, but Hollow wants to see the situation outside and peeks through the curtain. Outside, there are about 13 bandits demanding to hand over the carriage. Karen demands to return her father safely, but the bandits start passing unsightly comments about the two girls. It is always the same for the two girls, so they decide to show the bandits just what they are dealing with. The fight starts, both parties using magic, of course. This is the first time that Hollow has seen multiple magic users fighting at the same time. He thinks that the bandits are too many in number and decides to go help Karen and Shion. However, Karen and Shion seem in no need of any kind of help, as the both of them are even stronger than the bandits. Watching them fight, Hollow realizes that he has only ever sparred with people. He has not prepared himself like the two of them. Karen was right. He has not found his resolve yet. The fight takes a turn and an ice-type magic user arrives among the bandits, making Shine freeze with his magic. He is Oz Quartz and a class bounty. Karen uses her fire magic, but proves nothing in front of her opponent. She keeps using magic, even though her legs are frozen. Oz uses his magic thunder to immobilize Karen and approaches her with ulterior motives. On the other hand, Kasumi tells Hollow to make his resolve and asks what they are here for. With a flash, Hollow comes between Karen and Oz. With Kasumi's help, he has made up his resolve. It does not matter whether he cuts someone or not. The thing that matters the most is the reason he decides to wield his sword. Karen and Sean tell him to run away, but Hollow remains unmoving. He dodges and strikes the bandits one by one, not giving them time to think. Even when the bandits use magic, he can just cut through it. Oz looks at him, a bit shocked, and cannot make up of the sword of opponent in front of him. He uses his magic thunder to immobilize Hollow, but his magic is useless against someone like Hollow. He strikes Oz in one blow, and the fight finally comes to an end. The journey begins like before, except a few things. That is, Hollow ended up beating the bandits so much that they need treatment, and so are coming with them to Ridwell. Karen and Sean tell Hollow to restrain himself in the future. From this experience, Hollow learned that he may be inexperienced, but he will choose to wield his sword from now on. They soon reach Ridwell. This is a huge city, with so many ingredients they have never seen before, so many people and tradesmen. Karen and Sean offer Hollow to come with them to the Adventurers Guild, as they are going to turn in the bandits there. The guild confirms that there was really a bounty on the bandits and rewards them generously. Sean decides to split the money between Hollow and themselves, but Karen says that all of it belongs to Hollow. In this way, Hollow earns money for the first time in his life. They thank him for saving their lives, and Hollow flushes from this experience. Karen teases him about it. The worker at the guild asks her why they gave the bounty money to Hollow, and Karen tells her that he is the one to take care of the Oz bandits. This news shocks everyone present, and the environment suddenly becomes lively. A girl who just completed her adventurer application inquires about the lively environment, so a worker tells her that the Oz bandits have been captured. He asks her if she also plans to do these kinds of jobs in the future, but she says that she does not plan to, because she is a demon hunter. Hollow and Kasumi were pretty lucky to have met Karen and Sean on their journey. Due to the help from those two, the registration and other formalities for registering at the Adventurers Guild were swiftly dealt. The next is the Adventurers exam that is going to be held in a dungeon. So they decide to look at the equipment they might need for the exam. Kasumi calls Hollow to look at a shop but bumps into someone because of her carelessness. She immediately apologizes, but the girl she bumped into is kind enough to say that she was also at fault for not looking ahead. Hollow recognizes the girl from the registration desk at the Adventurers Guild. After the mutual apologizes, Hollow and Kasumi head towards the shop, but the girl stops them. It seems that Hollow almost lost his registration card, but thankfully, the girl picked it up. He thanks her frantically, but the girl is interested in knowing his age. When Hollow tells her that he is 14 years old, she tells him that the entrance exam in this country is leagues above other countries. The previous generations of adventurers of this country have left many historical legends over time. So the demand of competent adventurers in this country compared to others is higher than usual. She is basically warning him to pull himself together if he does not want to lose his life. She says her piece and takes her leave, while saying that she is only looking out for the young. Kasumi is somewhat offended because she is 600 years old. Hollow, however, glooms over the fact that Karen said the same thing and wonders if he looks that incompetent. Kasumi consoles him by patting his head that she knows how capable he is. On the day of the exam, Kasumi is in her sword form. Hollow, along with all other examinees, enters the gate that leads them to the guild base's underground dungeon, the Forest of the Abyss. The exam will go on for 3 days and the examinees will be grouped. Hollow ends up with the girl from before, along with other members. The task of their group is to gather beast mushrooms. The one telling all this information concludes everything and says that he cannot answer their questions about the exam. However, the examinees have a ton of questions, but he repeats the same thing again. The team introduces themselves to each other. There are 2 boys on the team other than Hollow named Woodwind and Kai at the Wind God. The girl thinks that he self-proclaimed the name, the Wind Gods, and that is kind of lame. Kai gets angry, but Woodwind stops him from making any drastic actions. The girl introduces herself as Cecilia and says that she has no interest in working together with anyone. Woodwind tells them that this is his 4th time taking this test. As embarrassing as it can be, this means that he knows about the dungeon more than anyone does. This also implies that this test is not a walk in the park, so anyone who tags along with him would benefit. However, Cecilia and Kai do not seem to be too impressed by him and start teasing him. Hollow analyzes that the other teams are thinking about how to deal with other parties, but his team is arguing whether it even needs to be a team. Hollow decides to tag along with Woodwind, as they still do not know what conditions the mushrooms must be. And they can always come across people who can try to steal their stuff, so it is better to team up. However, for now, the team decides to split up to look for the material. It is the first time for Hollow to be in a plant-type maze. Kasumi, who is now in human form, says that these types of mazes are scary at night. She further evaluates that the mushrooms cannot grow without sunlight, and there are many other creatures like bat. This implies that this cave is connected to a real forest at its end. Hollow knows that the mushrooms must be near the place of connection for them to grow, so he decides to look for sunlight first. Even after looking around for the whole day, they cannot find anything. Kasumi is tired, and this is already nighttime, so they decide to go back to the campsite. They arrive at the underground lake in the Forest of Abyss. Kasumi notices that there is a lot more light here, and it is convenient to have a water source. She starts filling up the water in her bottle. Suddenly, Cecilia, who is wandering nearby, warns her to be careful, but her warning is a tad bit late, and a large water creature jumps on Kasumi. Hollow runs to save her while Cecilia uses her magic to attack the creature. Kasumi thanks her while Hollow praises her for having such a grip on her magic. However, Cecilia says that this was just a basic level magic. Hollow offers her to have dinner together as they are going to eat the big fish she just took care of. Cecilia is confused as she does not know how they are going to eat the fish. Kasumi and Hollow look at each other and let her accompany them for dinner. During their talk, Hollow tells her that he and Kasumi entered the entrance exam together. But in his mind, he knows that he could be disqualified if the guild found about Kasumi. Hollow praised Cecilia that she said she likes to work alone, but she can know people with just a glance. She even helped Kasumi earlier, so she is kind as well. She was pretty hard on him when they first, but she was actually worried about him. Cecilia tells them that she had a younger brother, and if he were to be alive today, he would be Hollow's age. But unfortunately, when she was younger, everyone except her was attacked by demons and could not survive. She was brought up in an orphanage. She lost her family in a young age, so it was very hard to socialize. And as she grew older, she wanted to exterminate demons. She does not want anyone to go through the same experience as her. In short, she just wants to help people. Suddenly, their surroundings glow up due to the light from the nightstones. Hollow thinks that everyone is here for a reason, but he is only here to find whatever it is he can do. The next day, Hollow wakes up and finds Cecilia standing near. She asks if he and Kasumi have that kind of relationship because she is hugging him in sleep. However, Hollow does not understand what she is implying and simply says that Kasumi needs to hug someone when she sleeps. Otherwise, she cannot calm down. Cecilia leaves after saying her thanks, and Hollow is motivated to give his best as well. Soon afterwards, they hear Cecilia shouting for help, so they run towards her. They find that Cecilia is with Kai, who has been attacked by the demons. Cecilia says that an enraged demon is nearby. Kai is still alive, so they provide first aid and call the higher-ups from the guild. The guild members take him away while telling them to take care of themselves. The group find that there is a pile of bones of living organisms nearby. Cecilia knows that this is the place where the demons feast, so they should leave this place instantly. Cecilia scolds them for being unarmed and decides to move as a party from now on. They decide to investigate the place and start looking around. Hollow finds Kai's bag and recalls that when he provided the first aid, he found the wounds from falling down other than the ones from the demons on Kai's body. So he immediately thought that the thing could be above them. Cecilia finds some sort of track, so they start following it to arrive at a base of the plant. They find that it is the base of the illumination plant that has become moist and started growing mushrooms. However, Hollow notices that the mushrooms have been picked recently, but there were no mushrooms in Kai's bag. They keep going and find the monster tracks enough for 2 shares. Hollow suggests going back as they are near the monster's den. However, Cecilia wants to go fill up water and Kasumi tags along with her. Hollow sits alone when Woodwind arrives at the scene and tells him to evacuate quickly. Hollow notices that his arm is injured, but the wound is not from the demons but from the wind magic. Hollow inquires about it, but he denies it. Hollow does not back down and keeps pushing, and in the end, Woodwind accepts that he gave these wounds to himself and asks to hand over the monster tracks. Kasumi and Cecilia also arrive at the scene, but do not understand what is going on. However, Hollow knows that Woodwind was the one to push Kai from the cliff. Woodwind actually wanted to buy the mushrooms from Kai, and upon his refusal, he attacked him, making him fall into the den of monsters. Woodwind does not feel guilty at all, and blames the test to be unfair. He even says that the mushrooms that Kai picked up were all fake and Hollow has the real ones. Cecilia gets angry at the fact that such a tragedy happened for just the mushrooms and uses her magic to trap Woodwind. He tries to escape, but Cecilia traps him in the water in a fit of fury. Hollow tries to stop her because at this rate, Woodwind can die. However, Cecilia is too angry to listen to anyone but Hollow stands in her way anyway. The mark on the palm of Hollow light up as he tells her that she cannot take his life. He slowly approaches her, reminding her that she is someone who wants to save people and grabs her wand. Cecilia notices that her magic is disappearing as she calms down. She lets Woodwind go and Hollow tells him to give up. He even informs him that Kai is still alive, so there is no need to be guilty and go beyond the line. Hollow watches something behind Woodwind and warns him. There is a monster behind him, sniffing him. Woodwind looks back and cries for help as the monster opens his large mouth. On the other hand, Hollow and Kasumi rush towards each other and Kasumi transforms into the sword so that Hollow can grab her. They are going to save Woodwind, but Cecilia is confused about this sudden transformation. Hollow comes before the monster, but the land is slippery and he cannot stand. He tries to wake up the fainted Woodwind, but Cecilia tells him to not get too close to him as the monster is focused on Woodwind. She uses her magic to surround and protect Woodwind instead. One worry out of the way, Hollow jumps into the air and gets rid of the monster in one strike. Kasumi changes back into her human form, and what awaits her is the questions from Cecilia. Hollow notices that there are mushrooms on the monster's back. Now back at the guild, they find that their assigned task was really to find the mushrooms grown on the monster's back. Furthermore, Woodwind would not be able to become an adventurer due to his violations of the code. However, Cecilia and Hollow get their adventurer badges that are white in color for now. It is now time to celebrate and Hollow invites Cecilia to grab something to eat. However, she looks too serious to be in mood to celebrate. She warns Hollow that it is best to not have Kasumi turn into a sword in front of people. She heard the rumors that there is a bloodthirsty person looking for magic swords on the loose. He is called the Corroded Magic Knight, and if you come in contact with his sword, your body will start to melt. Cecilia always thought that magic swords were just a legend, but now she came to realize that Kasumi might be the one of the rarest thing to ever exist. Hollow is busy warding off bunnies. Wait a minute, these are not just normal bunnies, these are the monster rabbits. He tells the village chief that it is better to farm the herbs that do not attract such harmful beasts. He thanks Hollow and wishes him good luck to take care of the pile of bunnies. It is the day 5 of becoming an adventurer, and Hollow has been focused solely on daily tasks while in the white class. The types of requests are divided by classes. The starting class, the white class only usually gets for jobs on smaller scales such as handyman jobs. There is not really any other choice other than gaining reliability through small accomplishments in order to rise in ranks. When they go to the guild later on, they are told that Hollow is almost in the red class. They get all excited but draw the attention of an adventurer. However, Hollow and Kasumi do not notice and keep chatting. They comes across Cecilia, who has been taking advice from Karen and Sean after Hollow introduced them. Hollow suggests to team up with them for going on the missions that require parties. Cecilia asks if he would also join, but he says that since he cannot use magic, he is not sure if there is a party he can join. However, the two girls think otherwise and scold him for downplaying himself. They talk about the rotten magic knight once again, who can wither the body of the opponent with just a cut. Cecilia once again warns them to be careful of anyone finding out Kasumi's true identity. There is a need of constant reminder because Kasumi can be careless at times. After some time, they say goodbye to Cecilia and continue doing their everyday tasks. What they do not know is that they have been constantly monitored by someone. As a result of continuous hard work, Hollow has been promoted to the red class. Kasumi is excited about the celebrations, but Hollow wants to take the missions of the red class right away. However, a boy stops him in his track, trying to be intimidating. Hollow glares at him, but before he can do anything, a girl strikes the boy, saying that he did not mean any harm and is just an idiot. Another boy frantically tells Hollow that they did not mean to bother him and only want to talk to him. Kasumi gets overprotective of Hollow when she sees the strange people, but they only want to invite Hollow to their party. They introduce themselves after all the chaos. The name of the girl is Shia White, and she is a wind-type magic user who guards the rear, and she is in charge of medical treatment. The boy is Baron, who is an earth-type magic user and is in charge of exploration. The idiot from before is Rai Zignald, and he is the fire-type user. He also self-proclaims himself the leader of the group, and all of them are red-class adventurers. Hollow also introduces himself, and Kasumi introduces herself as his partner. They want Hollow to join their party to eradicate the orcs and level up to Azure class. They want Hollow in their team because they have been impressed by his hard work and dedication. Hollow thanks them for inviting him, but also discloses that he cannot use magic and sword is his only weapon. However, the team does not mind because they all are also lacking in one way or another. For example, Shia is the daughter of a medicine master, but she has pollinosis, so she cannot touch medicines. Baron is the son of a soldier, but he cannot use any attack magic. In addition, Rise, who is the son of a priest, is really bad at reading and writing. Therefore, it is not a big deal for them that Hollow cannot use magic because they can make up each other's shortcomings. Hollow joins the part and the adventure begins. He takes care of the monsters along the way, making the part realize that he really is very strong. Shia says that out of all of them, Rise is the most useless one, but Hollow reassure him that he can just guard the rear because there is no point in taking this mission if they just end up burning the commission items. Rise knows that Hollow is right and decides to guard the rear. However, he lets his guard down and a monster almost attacks Shia. Hollow saves her in time and helps her get up from the ground. Rise feels that Hollow was so cool, but Shia starts scolding him, causing another bickering among them. Hollow tries to calm them down by telling them that he is really enjoying himself in this party. In the darkness of the night, a girl asks an adventurer if he has heard about some magnificent sword. She attacks him out of nowhere, causing him to wither away with the cut of her sword. Hollow and Part reaches the Orcs' Den, which is a massive dungeon that acts as a layered colony, and in order to defeat the General Orc, they need to get through all of the layers. They are almost at the top, but the number of orcs are not decreasing. Hollow decides to attract their attention towards himself so that the party can proceed forward. He knows that taking on so many orcs alone is not an easy feat, but this can give his party enough time, and if he can make a thin way while fighting the orcs, he can succeed. However, contrarily to his expectations, the part does not run away. Baron uses his magic to provide all of them a ground armor. Shia uses wind magic, while Rise uses fire to burn all orcs at once. Even with the ground armor, the flames are too intense. The team tell Hollow to come after him, but Hollow is confused by their actions. They finally escape from there, but Rise's throat is too dry due to using too much fire. Hollow calls them reckless for doing something like that, but Rise is angry with him because he is the reckless one. He says that the kind of sacrificial attitude that Hollow has just shows that he does not trust his party. So if he trusts them, he should not try to pull something like this again. Hollow is shocked to hear that and becomes gloomy. Baron pats his head and tells him that he made everyone worried. Hollow apologizes to the group, but Shia notices a wound on his wrist and tends to it despite Hollow saying that it is not a big deal. Shia tells him that even though he has been fighting alone all this time, they are a party now. Hollow wants to say something to Rise, but the General Orc arrives at the scene and he misses his chance. General Orc supervises all the orcs. It is superior in all aspects to other orcs such as physique, intelligence, and more.
He can even talk, which surprises Hollow as this is the first time he has seen an orc talk.
It comes forward to attack them, but Rise uses Fire Blast. However, the flames do not do much to the General Orc and Hollow brings Rise a step back just in time. The General is wearing armor of dying flames, so is unaffected by the flames. On Rise's instructions, Hollow goes forward to break the armor while Rise covers him. Hollow is confident that he can break the armor, but the General Orc lands an attack, making Hollow fall back. The General Orc is angry that mere humans that can use magic are here to fight them even though the orcs are born to be warriors. He moves his weapon to land a final blow on Hollow.